And we have maintained the ability to have an over-the-horizon capability to take them out. We don't have a military in Syria.
Don't have military in Syria. Oh, that's news to me. I had no idea. I wonder if Joe knew. Joining me now, Joe Kent, former Green Beret, current congressional candidate in Washington. He's going to win this time. Joe, I don't know if you knew, buddy. I know you're CIA and Green Beret type. We don't have troops in Syria. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's news to the family who just received the tragic news that their loved one was killed defending one of our bases, and all the service members who just got evacuated after the Iranian drone attack there. So this just is another disaster under Joe Biden.
Joe, will you explain to people who really don't know anything about this world, why did a contractor die? What's a contractor? Is he over there building schools? Why did he die?
Yeah, I mean, contractor is actually a pretty widely used term that can mean a wide variety of things. I believe that this gentleman that we're talking about was a contractor that was servicing some of the air defense fortifications we have on our bases over there, but it can mean anything from a guy who's carrying a rifle, doing the same duties as a soldier, all the way to somebody who is serving in a more support role like this gentleman was, or doing food services, or advising, whatever government that we are trying to install at the time.
Why do we have troops in Syria? What's Syria to us? Explain it to me.
Yeah, that's the question. I don't think that we have any more vital national security interest inside Syria. A long time ago, when ISIS had taken over large swaths of Syria and Iraq, we put a limited number of special operators into Syria to take out the Islamic Caliphate. President Trump clearly defined that as all the ground that the Islamic Caliphate, ISIS, controlled at the time. We accomplished that mission in December of 2018. Attempted to get our troops out the first time. Tragically, my late wife was killed with 3 other Americans in Manbij, Syria, just a month after that, because the administrative state, the DOD, unelected bureaucrats drug their feet and they wanted to stay in Syria. And unfortunately, they got their way with the backing of Congress at the time to leave our troops there with no clear mission. And now they're caught in this 6-sided civil war. If you add it up right, there's Assad and Iran that are working with the Russians to keep Assad in power. And then on the other side, you have the remnants of the Islamic Caliphate, some form of a Sunni resistance group working against Assad. But you also have the Turks that are at war with the Kurds, who we are helping out as well. So there's really no vital national security interest left in Syria. We're there because the military-industrial complex has a good thing going, and they don't want to let it go. And there's even some crazy people in the national defense apparatus that still want to topple the regime of Assad because, regime change works out so well when we do it.
Yeah, well, it worked out in Libya, worked out in Iraq. Of course it'll work out well in Syria. Joe, can you help me understand this? Iranian-backed militias. Who are they? Why are they attacking us? Why is Iran backing them? Why are we not killing them? What's going on here?
This is probably the least reported but most tragic part of the story. The Iranian-backed militias are over there to bolster Assad. Assad and Iran have been longtime allies. However, the Iranian-backed militias, it sounds like a ragtag group of guys that are sympathetic to Iran that happen to be in Syria. This is not the case. When ISIS came and took over large swaths of Iraq and Syria, they defeated large parts of the Iraqi army that we spent well over $1 trillion and lost nearly 5,000 Americans building. That Iraqi army threw its weapons on the ground for the most part, handed them over to ISIS. Now, the Iraqi government was heavily propped up by Iran, and they're the ones who came in with our backing. We're the ones that paid for the Iranians to be the winners in Iraq. And so the Iranian militias are largely funded by the Iraqi government that we pick up the bill for. So we are funding the exact same terrorists that are killing our troops.
Oh, you can't write this stuff. Okay, well, let's move on to other horrible parts of the world. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are getting together to do what exactly, Joe? What does this mean to us? Anything? Everything?
Yeah, this could mean everything. It doesn't mean anything good for us. I mean, you don't have to understand geopolitics at a high level to just take a look at a map and know that it's going to be a bad thing when Russia and China gang up on the rest of the world. That's the world's second biggest economy with one of the world's biggest nuclear powers and energy exporters. And so they got together, they're forming an alliance. They're bringing Iran, Saudi Arabia, members of OPEC into this alliance, and they're creating an alternative an alternative to the dollar. China is working on replacing us as the world's sole superpower. So Xi has said he is working on a ceasefire between Ukraine and between Russia. Of course, we've said this ceasefire is completely and totally unacceptable, but I don't think anybody really cares what we have to say anymore. We've already got the Saudis and the Iranians saying that they will accept payment for petro in yuan, the Chinese currency. So we're seeing a massive consolidation right now of economic powers that could undermine our status as the prime reserve currency holder. Meanwhile, we continue to spend trillions and trillions of dollars that we just simply don't have. And Xi is poised to take down our status, or at least erode our status of the dollar. Even if he just erodes it, that could have catastrophic consequences to our economy right here at home.
What consequences?
Well, the only reason that we're able to continue to print and borrow so much money is because the dollar is the prime reserve currency holder. Every bank throughout the world has to back up their currency with the dollar. They have to do all their trading internationally with the dollar. If the yuan takes away that status, then the dollar really quickly, almost overnight, could become much less than it is right now. So we could see a massive lack of confidence in our banking system. And that's basically all we have. We don't make things here anymore in the United States. We don't produce our own energy anymore. We rely 110% on the entire world to do all their transactions in the dollar. If half of the world switches over to the yuan, or at least a large swath of Eurasia and OPEC, I mean, the petrodollar has kept the US dollar afloat. The Saudis have already said they're okay with China buying oil in the yuan. That's going to start taking away the value of the petrodollar. So our ability to run the economy as we know it right now, that is seriously on the line right now. And we're really doing all of this just because we decided to throw this draconian sanctions package at Russia and continue to escalate towards World War III with Ukraine. At the end of the day, we need the American people to ask their leaders, like, hey, are you going to ask us about this? Because I don't think it's good with most American people that we are willing to take such massive risks just for the border of Ukraine. We feel for the Ukrainian people. However, this is not worth World War III or crashing our currency.
Okay, on that note, we have a military recruitment crisis. There are a variety of reasons for this, from medical, because every daggone kid today is on ADHD medication, to physical, these kids can't throw a baseball or walk a mile without sucking wind, to the fact that rural parents, especially people with traditional values, don't want their child to go fight and die for the U.S. of A. Either way, we have a huge recruitment crisis. So if World War III breaks out, exactly how do they merge those worlds, Joe?
That's going to be yet another crisis, as if we didn't have enough. But the tool in that toolbox is the draft. And so this is what the American people need to realize. Yeah, we were able to fight the war on terror, our longest war. We were able to fight that with an all-volunteer force because people were still joining the military. There was a high degree of patriotism. We had a little bit more physically fit of a population. However, right now, that population of folks, by and large, conservative-leaning people from the red parts of the country who joined the military, they've been completely and totally alienated for the last 3 years by this administration. And like you said, go figure, now they're not sending their sons and daughters off to volunteer. So as we have all these emerging crises throughout the world, people need to understand that if things go sideways, the selective service is a very real thing. Your sons, and potentially even your daughters, if the Democrats get their way, they will call on them to go fight and die in these wars.
Yeah, the wild times. Joe, give out your website, please. We want you to win next time.
Thank you very much. Yep, JoeKentForCongress.com is the place to go. Anything that folks can give to support us is going to help us push back against the Democrat machine and hopefully correct the course that we're on right now. JoeKentForCongress.com.
JoeKentForCongress.com. Thank you, brother.